una nueva saga toca su fin. Fieles a su cita, Jennifer Lawrence, Josh Hutcherson y Liam Hemsworth aterrizan en Madrid para presentar la última de las películas de los Juegos del Hambre, Sinsajo Parte 2, que llega a los cines el 27 de noviembre. Os vamos a mostrar cómo ha sido la rueda de prensa de presentación de la película.
Each of the films has been very different. I mean, I think the clearest difference is that this is finally the end. Each of the movies that I've made has ended with a cliffhanger. But thematically, we also start to explore the real consequences of war and the consequences of violence, where we've been sort of exploring different facets of that general idea as we've progressed. But the characters are in a much different place. Katniss is active again. We're in full-scale war in the capital. And it's probably the most epic and thrilling and emotional of the movie so far.
I mean, for me, I think that the last book has so much that I mean, this is a good question for Nina because she worked a lot with those decisions and everything. But artistically, for me, I enjoyed it because you had an opportunity to explore the character more. And I mean, especially what Peeta goes through in the final book and final installment of the series is a lot. And so to have to cram that whole entire character arc into 1 2-hour movie artistically would be a much more difficult and unsatisfying journey, I think, than doing it in 2 parts.
The last book, there is so much ground to cover from a character and story and thematic perspective that we felt we needed 2 movies to really do justice to the book. As far as any more movies, there are no plans for more. We were given 3 wonderful books to adapt. We made 4 movies. We've had a great time, and we would love to get to do more together, but we feel that we've told the story, and unless Suzanne Collins decides there's more story to tell, then I think we're all done.
Yeah, me and Josh actually wrapped the day before the very last day. But we came to set on the very last scene, which Jennifer and Woody were shooting, and it was a scene that where Woody reads the letter from Plutarch, and it was a, I think a realization for all of us that it was coming to an end, or it was about to literally end, and we had an emotional hug right after they wrapped us, and then we proceeded with a few speeches, and I think we'd all held it together up until Woody began his speech, and he got a little choked up and started to tear up, and that was sort of a domino effect on all of us, I think. I don't know if there was time for sex at all.
I mean, I'll answer that half. I think, quite honestly, I don't think these movies aren't sexual movies, and I think the relationships actually that Katniss has with the 2 young men in this movie are sort of born out of the events that are happening, and they're born out of the sort of shared experiences that are happening. And part of the reason that she gets closer to Peeta is because they're both going through a traumatic experience, and it's a shared experience. But nobody has time for relationships. They're not thinking about relationships through these movies. It's about bonds and comfort and solace and what the guys mean in terms of philosophical meaning in life to her, and they both mean such different things. But this isn't about sexual tension at all.
And even though teenagers probably think a lot about sex, they also think about more than that. And so I think that when Suzanne wrote these books, she was talking about very real themes and very real issues that are happening in the world, and didn't need to play it down to them or fall into the typical demographical type things that people go after when they're making a movie for the teenage audience.
For me, being a part of these movies was a huge privilege. Is this even working? Is there a point to this? Does it work? Oh, it is? Okay. It was a huge privilege. I read the books. I was so inspired by the character, and it's lovely to be a part of movies that are actually saying something. These aren't teenage movies. There are very deep themes to these films, and it's great to be a part of a movie that's sending a message, an important message, I think. And it made my job really, really enjoyable.
We don't have any time. We got in last night at midnight and slept and woke up and have been answering questions all day.
I literally have never seen Madrid. I've never breathed I've been here 3 times, I think. I've never breathed the air in Madrid. I've been in underground garage and then airport, like hotel and airport.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you have any questions about the city at all, ask me. I can't compare myself to a heroine who started or led a revolution to save the world. But these movies were a huge opportunity for me, and gave me a voice and a platform. And women's rights, obviously something that I feel passionate about as a female. And so I'm just grateful for these movies for actually giving me that the voice to be heard.
Yeah, he died most of the way through his work. He had about 8 days left of work, and there were 2 big scenes with dialogue, one for each of the Mockingjay films, and a handful of scenes where he was supposed to make appearances. So we rewrote the scenes. The scene that Liam was speaking about earlier, where Hamish reads the letter from Plutarch to Katniss, was originally supposed to be a scene where Phil's character Plutarch comes to Katniss and they have a conversation. And it's obviously very unfortunate. We were all very broken up about it, and it took a long time to sort of get our wind back in our sails once we lost him. But we managed to be able to tell the story, and other actors like Woody and Elizabeth from the first film sort of took some of those scenes, which was not necessarily an easy thing to do.
Well, I don't really feel like there was more action in this movie necessarily for me personally. I mean, even in the first Hunger Games, if I was running up a hill in a scene, I was running up a hill all day for 12 hours. And the hardest sequence for all of us was the sewer sequence. We were wet for 12 hours a day for 3 weeks. It was challenging, but overall worth it because I think those scenes are amazing. So the sewer sequence was definitely the hardest. And between doing action and comedy, I don't know. It's scripts are. It's like a chemical connection. I don't like to overplan things. You read something, you connect with it, and then you want to do it. And we still laugh on these movies, even when we're doing action or drama or whatever it is. We're still having a blast on set. So I don't know. And I've never done a comedy, so I hope I haven't done a comedy and forgotten. I've never done a comedy, so I can't actually say. But I do need a little break from action movies. I just need to rest my body. I think the whole idea of them being so lucrative is that we no longer need to hook into any other sagas. We're good. We can do indies for the rest of our lives.
I mean, I don't know. There's been so many amazing, big series over the years. I was a huge fan growing up of Indiana Jones and Star Wars and like even the Alien sagas. Yeah, that's speaking. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many. I want to be in a new one though. I want to be in a new one.
You do?
Yeah, not a remake.
That's a good point.
Not a remake.
Me as Mystique in X-Men?
No, I don't.
It's hard to say. Like Jennifer said before, I think you read scripts, and if you connect with it in some way, then that's what you go after, regardless of whether it's a franchise or a comedy or whatever genre.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't not do something because it's a franchise.
Yeah, I think it's you just got it. You have to connect with the script or the character in some way or another.
Box office mojo.
Honestly, I don't keep count. But
You don't have that tattooed on you?
Yeah, it's definitely in the close to $2 billion, I believe. If not, yeah. Over $2 billion. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah. So.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I first of all believe in equality for everyone. I think regardless of gender, you should be treated and respected and paid the same as it's equality for all. That's what I believe first and foremost. As for more of these films, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sad that this is seen. No, I mean.
Pass it to Josh if he wanted to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sad to think that this style of movie would be a minority when women are the majority, technically, of humans on Earth.
51%?
Yeah, and so, it's sad to think that, but I think there have been movies, not it's sad to think there's 51% women. That's totally fine.
That's scary.
But that's terrifying. No, but, it's happened before in the past when there's been a very strong female lead many times where they've been successful, and I think now we're at a point where we're evolving more and we're seeing that men can also connect with female leads, like where the classic traditional thinking is that only male leads can have, you know, a female connection as well. So I think that we're getting better, but there's obviously still a long ways to go, and you know, I'm proud to be part of a movie like this. And when I read the scripts, I never thought like, God, I gotta play second hand to a woman. Like it's like ridiculous. And you know, I would never think that way. It is a great character. It had a great arc, and that's why I was attracted to the movie, because of my character.
Most of the films I've done has been supporting women. I've usually been the second lead to a woman, so I'm obviously
You're
okay
the ambassador.
with it. Yeah.
Well, I think it was, you know, it was probably one of the trickiest challenges for me going into this movie was how to incorporate the violence. One of the great things about the book, and the book is about violence and the consequence of it, and obviously Suzanne did not flinch, and I think that's part of why teenagers really respected it. And so I found myself in the position where my job was to make as intense a movie as possible, exploring specifically the emotional consequence of the violence, and making it as intense as possible without crossing the line where ratings boards would then deny access to the teenagers who the books were targeting originally. I didn't want to alienate those kids from the movies. So I decided that I was going to veer away from blood, away from carnage, and just explore the emotional impact and the intensity of it.
I think rebellion is a tricky word. You know, these characters are living in a different time with an oppressive government, which unfortunately some people are today. My personal fight that I'm passionate about, that I hope young people start becoming passionate about, is about the environment, and realizing that we have one planet, and that the climate change and the dangers that are happening to our environment are real and not myths. And you know, if this next generation doesn't do anything about it, then we are, as Donald Sutherland says, doomed. So that is my passion, not necessarily rebellion, but
I think that's a really good one, because I think that kind of all other issues become irrelevant if we don't take care of the planet first, because we don't have nowhere to live. So that's really important, obviously. I mean, I think everyone can rebel in their own individual way, and I think that a way that I would urge people to rebel is to not fall victim to like the manipulation of media or the propaganda or things where you're kind of told to think a certain way or believe a certain way without thinking for yourself. So I think it's really important to always think as an individual and not fall victim to that. So I'd say rebel against people trying to force you to think and feel a certain way and become just another zombie consumer.
No, you know, it's actually kind of a weird thing. I think, really honestly, on that day, Woody was sort of in the mood to make out with Elizabeth Banks. And so he started to give her a peck on the cheek, and then he started to linger a little longer. And the first time he went for the lips, she kind of backed away. And then it all started to happen. And I knew that there were always fans of Hafey, and I knew that there was always a kind of a chemistry between the two. And so I remember Nina and I looking at that and thinking it would be really great and really fun. And then everybody embraced it. Then Woody finally embraced it, and Liz finally embraced it. But it started out as just a very, you know, Woody being playful and joking around, and then it kind of grew into something that I thought would be a really nice surprise for the fans.
I have a couple bows.
That was really short. I kept the locket and the little necklace that Peter gave Katniss, and
So Peter.
and I also kept a pair of really comfortable futuristic sweatpants.
And Liam?
The necklace, the locket,
I actually
and then
took
sweatpants.
nothing at all. I took friendship and good memories.
Did you not take it?
No, I literally didn't take anything of mine.
Damas y caballeros, bienvenidos a los 76º Juegos del Hambre.